All right, feel free to start when you're ready.
Good morning or evening. I'm Kazaya. The global health issue I have chosen to focus on is tackling the rapid mutations of influenza viruses with pan-influenza vaccines. Please switch. We are all aware that influenza viruses have continued to be a significant threat to global public health. During the 20th century, 3 major influenza pandemics have occurred with a total mortality of 50 to 100 million people. Influenza virus has been an enemy and ongoing foe with humanity since decades ago. Please switch. In fact, one of the earliest and most noteworthy pandemic occurred in 1980, the H1N1 Spanish flu, also known as the greatest medical holocaust in history. Switch, please. Then we might have a question, why can't we inhibit or even eradicate the influenza virus even after all these years? Other deadly viruses in the past, such as smallpox, have been eradicated. Even cholera, which is a harder one to eradicate, mainly exists in African regions instead of causing worldwide pandemics. Please switch. Just press the pictures, yeah. This is actually related to the working mechanisms of influenza viruses. The influenza virus has a high mutation rate due to its genetic makeup and replication process. The virus has a segmented genome, which means that its genetic material is divided into several segments that can be exchanged between different strains of the virus. The resulting combination can result in the emergence of new strains that are different from previous strains, and therefore a vaccine that targets one strain might not be effective against another strain. Can you just skip to the next slide? The mismatch of strains within vaccines are currently circulating, and circulating strains will cause a significant reduction in preventing viral infection and illness severity. Well then, after learning about how severe the problem is, let me introduce the suggested solution that I have come up with based on the working theory of influenza viruses. Next slide. It is to develop an AI coding program that could discover or create a STEM-related broadly neutralizing antibody, aka SB and ABS, by calculation and prediction of viral resistance mutation response, and use such antibody to neutralize and prevent hemagglutinin, which I will refer as HA, to escape mutation. Next slide, please. Next slide. In order for better understanding, I have concluded the necessary parts for influenza virus infection. Next slide again, please. Next. The binding process between the virus and host body cells is a necessary step for binding HA into fusion conformation. Secondly, the extensive conformation changes in HA is required for membrane fusion, in which without that process, the entry of viral RNA into body cells is impossible, making it unable to infect body cells. And thirdly, it is dependent fusion, HPH dependent fusion. We can see that from the above mentions, the neuraminidase NA and HA balance and pH degree is very important for optimal virus function, and the SBS and ABS mentioned above prevents the fusion of the host and virus membranes in the low pH endosomes by locking HA in a perfusion conformation and preventing the extensive conformational changes in HA, which is required for membrane fusion, thus blocking the entry of viral RNA into infected cells. This is the most direct way of preventing viral infection. In recent studies, the most effective antibody that we currently hold is F10. We can skip to the next slides. This is the binding process that I mentioned. I believe the slides is a bit slow. Can we just skip to the next one? Yeah, this is what I have mentioned by how the SB and ABS, this kind of antibodies will help to the main goal of why we are developing and finding for this kind of antibodies. Next slide, please. Yeah, and The most effective antibody, I will say again, that we have currently hold is F10, which is broadly active against all group 1 viruses, and only 3 HA mutations, S123G, N460S, and N2030, have shown the potential to indirectly impact influenza virus receptor binding, endosomal fusion, or budding. And the NA mutation E239K, which was previously identified to be associated with antibody escapes. The AI program mentioned in the solution would refer to potential antibodies like F10, C179, CR6261, etc., and study the previous mentioned selected mutations. Next slide, please. These kinds of mutation, HA mutations, would be studied. And with such database, the AI program should be able to speculate and predict the whole genome population sequence, enabling the identification of viral-resistant mutation responding to antibody-induced selective pressure, and potentially discover the perfect antibody. The AI program should be able to identify influenza virus escape mutants by high-thread sequencing analysis of virus populations generated through in vitro trajectory experiments. Next slide, please. And next slide again, please. A recent study by Dr. Chen reported that genetic engineering of Staphylococcus epidermis in expressing tumor antigen anchored to secrete or cell surface proteins, basically genetic manipulating bacteria on the skin to express tumor antigens, activating an immune response against cancer. We can use the same mechanism and genetically modify bacteria in producing influenza antigens and use the AI program to eliminate the antigens that face potential threats of HA escape mutation. In other words, we can, next slide, I think this next slide. In other words, we can develop an AI program that could enhance the efficiency in the discovery of a most suited antigen by calculating and predicting antigens that may result in possible HA escape mutations and then eliminate them. The effectiveness of the vaccine produced will be tested out with the adapted change and experimented on eyes before adapting to human use. Next slide, please. However, there are always hindrances and obstacles in such research projects. Next slide. The first one would be anti-vaxxers. Next slide, please. Based on the data of National Center of Health Statistics, percentage of adults aged 18 and over who received an influenza vaccination during the past 12 months is only 47.5%. The mortality rates caused by influenza are still at high stakes. It's mainly caused by the lack of herd immunity, which is one of the major outcomes of anti-vaxxers. The consequence, some anti-vaxxers are worried about the consequence of severe complications after vaccination. After vaccination, and because due to the lack of education they receive and scientific research that they have heard from, they believe that without receiving vaccination is the most best way of maintaining their health. And the second one would be, next slide, please. Political obstacles and economic hindrances. For such a vaccine to be developed, a large sum of capital will be used and might face the risk of failure. This could lead to possible political obstacles between countries as there will be arguments in responsibility for capital loss when facing failure, and problems of potential technical leakage will spike mistrust within countries. Also, as a claimed universal vaccine, there will be problems of accountability and legal restrictions on such vaccines, as the judging standards of the quality of the vaccine might not be acknowledged by citizens. The economic inequality between LEDCs and MEDCs couldn't be ignored, as LEDCs might not be able to pay for the vaccine, leading to a higher mortality rate within those poorer countries. There will be challenges faced when trying to achieve equity instead of only equality. And these are the political and economic interests that would be a obstacle in solving the global health issue. And the third one would be technical issue. The technology we currently hold might not be able to afford such complicated work. Especially technologies required in the project are in very developed stage. But even though if both technologies are in very early development stage, it is not impossible. And the goal of the project would be to develop an universal vaccine that does not require yearly shots and is immune to IAV mutations. With not requiring yearly doses, it hopefully enhances the willingness of public to take vaccinations. The ultimate goal would be reducing mortality and infections by achieving herd immunity, as influenza has been one of the leading factors of mortality rate. We hope for an all-rounded vaccine that defies mutation, lowers the rates of viral replication, and minimizes side effects. Thank you. I would like to show the citations page at the end. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sayed. I'm just out of curiosity, how long did that take you with the research and creating the presentation?
Well, technically for this whole research, it's about 6 hours, and then the script, wow, it's I think about 2 hours, and the just now I said I don't have enough time. I need more time to prepare. I was working on the PowerPoint.
No, you did amazing, especially with the time you had. Thank you so much. I love seeing all the reactions in the chat. If you guys have any questions for her, you're more than welcome to type them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll transition on to our next speaker in the next minute or two. But amazing, amazing job. All right, so Andrea, are you ready to present?
Yes, our group is ready.
Perfect, okay. And just a reminder, when the presenters are talking, just to keep yourselves on mute, but I will share your screen and we'll get started.
Okay, so hello, my name is Juan Pablo, and our group is, sorry, and my name is Juan Pablo, and our group is composed of Anusha, Saha, Antoine, Andrea, and me, Juan Pablo Manrique. And today we're going to be presenting our product named Larva Lock, a solution to limit the spread of mosquito-borne diseases caused by an increase in flooding. So the way we're going to deconstruct it is we're going to start with a background. We're going to say what already exists, a solution, testing and experiments, pros and cons of the product, social and ethical implications, and finally our references. So, mosquitoes, the problem. Due to climate change and the temperature of oceans rising, Earth is experiencing an increased amount of rainfall resulting in flooding. It is widely known that mosquitoes typically lay their eggs near or on areas of standing water. Research has shown that there is a positive correlation between flooding and the number of cases of mosquito-borne diseases such as Zika virus, Murray Valley encephalitis, dengue fever, and more. Now, malaria, interesting fact, malaria is one of the most well-known mosquito-borne diseases, killing approximately 2.7 million people and infecting 300 to 500 million people each year. You can turn to the next slide. So, Right now, as of 2023, there's been many products that have been put into the market in order to exterminate these mosquitoes and larvae, right? Such as larvicides, pesticides, services such as pest controls that necessarily what they do is they reduce the amount of mosquitoes that are present in an area, right? Not only that, but there's also been more domestically available products such as Thermacell, which is necessarily a product that you can put in your house, such as like an oil sense machine. And what it does is as soon as it detects a mosquito, it will start sending pesticides. Other mechanisms such as multispectral imaging that is usually used to look at a certain area and analyze a certain area, and quadricopters, which are necessarily drones that farmers have been using for a while in order to farmers have used it for a while in order to control their farms whenever they're not present. However, we came a step further, and what we did was we combined every single one of those existing research into one single product that is going to be able to change the world from now on. And that is our solution. You can go into the next slide.
So our device would be a drone that detects mosquito larvae habitats in flooded areas and sprays a larvicide that prevents the larvae from growing and reproducing. For the detection aspect, the drone would be equipped with cameras and a computer vision algorithm that actively takes pictures of the flooded area and identifies larvae in the water. So a convolutional neural network model would be used and stored on a portable Raspberry Pi 4 computer. This model is a deep learning algorithm that uses several layers of processing to interpret data. And the larvicide that our drone would use is methoprene, and it acts as a growth hormone and prevents larvae from growing into adults and reproducing. The next slide, please. So this flowchart on the left outlines how the algorithm works. So first, the camera would take an image of the area, and it would go through the different layers of the neural network. And eventually there would be an output value of either a 0 or a 1, 0 meaning that larvae was detected and 1 meaning that no larvae was detected. So after 0 is outputted, the drone would be programmed to spray methoprene over the affected area and then continue on its flight path. And this picture on the right here is a sketch of what our drone would look like.
Okay, so to test our experiment, we decided to find flood-prone regions in developing countries, and for that, we have found Ecuador and Pakistan. And for Pakistan, we will use Wali and Jakarta, and for Ecuador, we use Atacames Canton and Esmeralda Canton. All of these regions are flood prone, as well as having a high incidence of mosquito-borne diseases. And for each country, we will divide one community into one control, and the other will be our experimental zone. Next slide. So our experiment, so first we will collect water in preliminary collection of water to test the baseline mosquito populations in all of the regions we are testing in. And when we are collecting water, we will, for each body of water, we will collect up to 20 samples of 500 milliliter of water at the 10-meter intervals from each body of water to ensure that we have captured a wide range of mosquito larvae that could possibly be in the water. And we will test both natural and artificial water sources to see if our methods work in both sources. So for each location, we will deploy 10 drones, which will apply targeted application of methoprene on the mosquitoes on a weekly basis for 6 months, because methoprene has a half-life of about 1 week in light regions. So doing this ensures that we will have a consistent treatment of mosquito, ensuring that the population will reduce. Okay, next slide. So our data collection would be After we collect each sample of water, we will perform a point count of all mosquito larvae present in each sample of water to see the populations in each of these locations. Also, in addition to that, we will also perform a laboratory bioassay on the mosquito samples to see if methylprene is present in concentration in the mosquito larvae to test the effectiveness of our invention and see if it did detect the mosquito larvae in the body of water. Additionally, we will also be checking for morphological abnormalities in these mosquito larvae, since methylprene is known to induce developmental changes in the prior to pupation of these mosquito larvae. Next slide. So for our data analysis, to ensure that our invention actually did work, we will compare the new mosquito-borne disease rates to historical data of mosquito-borne diseases from both Pakistan and Ecuador 6 months after the experiments. And we will get that data from the World Health Organization, which keeps a long history of annual data of these mosquito-borne diseases in both of these regions. And we will find that that our experiment is statistically significant if the mosquito-borne disease rates reduction are higher than 5%, which would indicate a p-value of less than 0.05, indicating a positive correlation between the targeted application of methylprene to drone and a reduction of mosquito-borne diseases prevalence in these regions. Next slide.
So some possible limitations to larva lock include a limited maximum weight that the drone can carry. It would be 0.29 pounds, and this would have to sustain the weight of both the computer and the methylprene, so only a limited amount can be stored on the drone. However, possible adjustments to the drone can be made so that it can carry more weight. And although this model is relatively inexpensive, it does have a flight time of only 25 minutes, so it must be recharged often. But then again, modifications can be made to the battery to prolong its flight time. Next slide, please.
Okay, so now to discuss some of the pros and cons of our solution. So some pros would be that the drone covers a large geographical region. This is something we would not be able to do over foot as opposed to aerially. It can access flooded areas that might be difficult to reach by foot. It's cost effective and can be used in developing countries. And it does not kill mosquito larvae. Instead, it will limit their development into adults. Some cons are that large amounts of methylprene may harm some aquatic wildlife through runoff. These are, for example, crustaceans, lobsters, some fish. And biomagnification also occurs as methylprene can actually accumulate in fish tissues, which allows them to pass through the trophic levels of food web, since predators consume multiple prey going up the levels of our food web. Next slide, please. Yes, we have some more on this next slide. So our pros include that drones can be automated so that more resources can be allocated towards rescue, first aid, and relocating victims of a flood. And some cons are also that the high turbidity and heavy debris that happens during a flood that can actually impact the ability of the AI. It may impact it of detecting the mosquito larva. Also, sterilizing adults will reduce the mosquito population in the long term. So this might have negative effects in the ecosystem in the long term, as many species predate mosquitoes and their larvae as a source of food. Next slide, please. Right, so now to discuss some of the social and ethical implications of our approach. So most of them have to do with methylprene. And since methylprene has the ability to potentially kill some fish and crustaceans, this might impact the livelihood of people who depend on these animals, such as fishermen. In addition, there's little research done to test the long-term effects of the use of methylprene on various land and aquatic life. It is possible that long-term use may result in devastating consequences on our food chain and biodiversity of the ecosystem, and it could possibly endanger certain species due to the toxicity in the future, but this has to be tested further. Further research will also have to be conducted to test the feasibility of methylprene as a long-term solution to the mosquito crisis. Even though it's safe, we still need a lot more research as to how this will impact us over years to come. Multiple drones also require high initial investment, especially for lower income countries, and highly trained technological maintenance teams. I think next slide. Yeah. So high initial investment for low-income countries and highly trained technological maintenance teams would be needed to be implemented in those areas. And the benefit, however, this will conserve capital spent on healthcare and screening resources to treat these diseases. Furthermore, using these drones actually replace pest control visits regularly, and this is good because it actually results in 84% less greenhouse gas emissions than using diesel trucks to do the same thing. Next slide, please.
All right, are you guys finished?
Yes, those are our references.
Thank you, slide.
Perfect. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, wonderful, wonderful job. I really love how thorough you guys when you're discussing the pros and cons, social and ethical implications, limitations. It was very, very thorough and detailed. So wonderful job, guys. Again, the floor is open for any questions the audience may have. I believe some people are also providing some of their comments and encouragement in the chat. So take a look at that. But our next speaker will be Niven. So in the next minute or so, Niven, you can give me a thumbs up when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Amazing. I'm just gonna, oh, we have a question from Ada. So she says, using a drone raises questions about consent and privacy. How will you deal with these? Great presentation, by the way. So if anyone wants to answer, who just presented.
So our AI, the Raspberry Pi computer, would actually detect for mosquitoes, and it should not hamper everyday living or recording with any camera. It will just use a sensor. And if any of my team members want to add to that.
Yeah, so the whole concept is using some infrared sensors, which is what was previously researched before. And the camera that would be used wouldn't necessarily record
just to detect mosquitoes by AI and to spray methylprene in those areas.
And of course, this will be advertised and said to everyone, just to like nobody like thinks that we're trying to spy on them to like sort of prevent that problem.
I hope that answers the question. It's just to detect mosquitoes. Thanks.
All right, wonderful. So we will be moving on to our next speaker. I'm just going to share your screen, and Niven, you can unmute now. All right, are you guys able to see the screen?
You can it as slideshow?
No, unfortunately, since it's PDF. But if you want, you know what, I can zoom in so that only this slide that you're talking about is visible. Does that work?
Okay. Let's start. Hi, our research is antibiotic resistance created by Eagle's team. Our problem is strong as our name team is Eagles. Okay, let's start. Next slide. Next slide. The table of content, it will be introduction, problem, previous studies, description, definition of concepts, solution, conclusion and applications, and the sources. Next slide. About our team, we are 9 students from Egypt, and we was found a solution of the antibiotic resistance problem. Next slide. The introduction. The antibiotic has use contributed to the dramatic decrease to the morbidity and mortality due to the infection disease worldwide. Now the world is under the constant threat due to the growing consumption of the antibiotics and increasing development of the complex bacterial strains. Antibiotic consumption has continued to increase. The 2021 ST country doubled plus and due to the better access of low and middle income countries to antibiotic levels. Antibiotic consumption increased by 65% between 2000 and 2015 worldwide. Each year, there were 670,000 infections due to the antibiotic resistance bacteria in the European Union, European and Economic Area, and approximately 33,000 people die as a direct consequence of these infections. Okay, the USA Center the Disease of Control and Prevention (CDC) published a report of estimating the number of extra deaths due to the AR to reach 23,000 people per year in the USA. Next slide. Next slide. The problem. At the beginning of the invention of the antibiotics got no. The previous slide. Previous slide, please. Introduction. Yes, introduction. The antibiotic. No. The problem. I'm sorry. The problem. The problem, please. Yes. Destroy them, element, and have many diseases. But nowadays antibiotics have lost their power against certain types, the story of the bacteria, and more bacteria are becoming stronger. It forming what are known as a super bacteria, which are new antibiotic resistant bacteria. As a result of the incorrect use of antibiotics, the bacteria has a barrier to these bacteria. It gains greater strength and immunity in the resistance gain and inherited during the production of the bacteria, which lead to the production of new bacteria and also bears to the characteristics of the antibiotic resistance. And the patient condition worsens. And with the excessive use the antibiotics, the beneficial bacteria in the body that are responsible for keeping our healthy benefit destroyed, and the harmful bacteria remain largely in the control of the body, infecting the bacteria every year more than 2 million people worldwide, killing at least 23,000 people. Next slide, please. Okay, previous studies. What is the sum history of antibiotic resistance? Antibiotic was the first recorded in the bacterial species of the streptococcus and gynococci. Resistance first present a major issue to antibiotic use with the treatment of the tuberculosis TB. Currently, antibiotic resistance remain major public health threat to and contributor to antibiotic resistance worldwide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The description. Antimicrobial resistance happens when germs like bacteria and fungi develop the ability to defeat drugs designed to kill them. That means that germs are not killed, that continue to grow. Resistant infection can be difficult and sometimes impossible. Next slide. The concept. Antibiotics resistance is one of the biggest threats to the global health, food security, and development today. Antibiotic resistance can affect anyone of any age in any country. Antibiotic resistance occurs naturally, but misuse of the antibiotic in the humans and animals it's accelerating the process. A growing number of infections such as pneumonia, tropicaria, gonorrhea, and salmonella, and are becoming harder to treat. The antibiotic used to treat them become less effective. Antibiotic resistance lead to longer hospital stays, higher medical costs, and increased mortality. Next slide. The solution. We have to follow disease prevention ways. When we get sick, we must our immune system fight the disease. Because the strengths of our immune system, we can help the immune cells expel bacteria by taking natural antibiotics. Antibiotics are only when ordered. A doctor don't take antibiotics with a viral disease. The regimen doctor will recommend should be followed in taking antibiotics, and time of taking antibiotics prescribed of your doctor can never be manipulated. The laboratories should report regularly of the result of antibiotic sensitivity tests to analyze the data and put long-term strategy plan to reduce antibiotic resistance. Use narrow spectrum, use antibiotic whenever possible, and stop overusing broad spectrum antibiotics. Please, next slide. From the previously given information, we can summarize the important points at first. Antibiotic resistance is growing concern that threatens of our existence as human beings. Making is difficult for us to combat bacterial infection that may predispose to many serious health problems. Antibiotic resistance simply means the ability of the bacterial develop a new strategy to reduce effectiveness of the antibiotic and chemotherapy by different mechanisms. تمام. The next slide. Next slide. Sources, and thank you.
All right, amazing job, Nitin. I really like the visuals you use. Your presentation is very aesthetic. Love that. Okay, once again, the chat is open for any questions you may have for Nitin. I agree, very engaging presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nitin. Jenna, are you going to be
Can we start?
presenting by yourself?
Can we start?
Yes, you're good to start.
Hello, we are the Sanado K team. Our presentation and research is about the side effects of antibiotics and how can we limit it. Firstly, we must know about antibiotics. Antibiotics is a chemical material produced by a living organism, normally a microorganism which is harmful to other microorganisms. Antibiotics are typically developed by soil microorganisms and are likely to be a means by which organisms regulate the growth of competing microorganisms in complex environments such as soil. Also defines that they are medicines that fight bacteria, infections, people, and animals. They work by killing the bacteria or by making it hard for the bacteria to grow and multiply. What is the history of antibiotics? The history of antibiotics: Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1926, which suppressed the bacterial growth. Edward Chain and Howard Florey studied it, leading to Nobel Prize in 1945. We also can use antibiotics to treat bacteria infections that are unlikely to clear up without antibiotics could infect others unless treatment could take too long to create without treatment, carry a risk of more serious complications. Antibiotics can be used in surgery. Normally can be used in surgery in certain areas. It's because there could be a higher risk of infection. They can use to people which is vulnerable to infection. People aged over 75 years, babies less than 72 hours old, babies with high risk, people with heart failures, and more people which can be easy infected. Third slide. The next. Now we will know about the classification of antibiotics. Antibiotics has many types, but the most common types are penicillin, cephalosporins, pitracillin, macrolides, and fluoroquinolone. Now we will know each one which is used for. Penicillin is widely used to treat a variety of infections, including skin infections, chest infections, urinary tract infections. Cephalosporins used to treat a wide range of infections. Some are also effective for treating more serious infections like meningitis. Tetracycline, they can be used to treat a wide range of infections. They are commonly used to treat moderate to severe acne and toothache. Macrolide can be particularly useful for treating lung and chest infection. Are used an alternative for people with a penicillin allergy. They can also be used to treat penicillin-resistant strains of bacteria. Fluoroquinolones, they are broad-spectrum antibiotics that can be used to treat a wide range of infection. A bacterial antibiotic such as penicillin kills the bacteria and more serious infection. The next. There are many side effects of antibiotics, which some are serious and some are weak. The most common side effect: nausea, skin rash, and vomiting. And the serious and there are mild side effect: abdominal discomfort, gas, headache. And the serious is liver problems. Liver problems, which is our side effect, which we will treat it and have a solution about it. Antibiotics can cause liver damage in older adults and those taking the medication for a long time. This problem usually subsides with stopping, but severe cases may require treatment. If symptoms of liver problems occur, consult a doctor for blood test and treatment. Symptoms may include abdominal pain, fatigue, and yellowing of the skin or eyes. The second side effect is interstitial infection. Antibiotics can cause clostridial difficult infection. Seek medical attention if symptoms include persistent diarrhea and abdominal pain, nausea, or stool blood. The side effect is severe skin reaction. Severe skin reaction with antibiotics treatment includes Stevens syndrome, toxic dermal necrotic stress, and AEB. Several symptoms include red rash or blisters, peeling, fever, and flu-like symptoms. The fourth serious side effect, allergic reaction. Serious allergic reaction to antibiotics, particularly in clean-sensitive individuals, can occur if you have had a previous reaction. Consult your doctor before taking the medication again. Symptoms include severe skin rash, hives, lip, tachy, throat swelling, and breathing trouble. The second, there are some herbs which can there are some herbs which can solve liver problems and make it stay healthy, like garlic, mint, sage, wildweed, turmeric, and dedlon are all essential herbs for liver. Garlic contains sulfur, which activates liver enzymes for toxin elimination, and contains allicin and selenium, which protects the liver from damage. Mint stimulates bile flow and promotes fat breakdown, while milkweed protects the liver from toxin and maintain glycation level. Now we can also help to reduce and limit from the liver problems which result from the antibiotics by probiotics. What is the probiotics? Probiotics are likely bacteria and yeasts that are often added to yogurts or food supplements. They are believed to restore the natural balance of bacteria in the guts, which can be disturbed by illness or treatment. While some evidence suggests probiotics may help with symptoms like irritable bowel syndrome, there is limited evidence supporting claims like treating eczema. Probiotics are generally safe for most people with a healthy immune system and should not cause unpleasant side effect. Probiotics are part of a large picture concerning bacteria and your body, your microbiome. Think of microbiome as a diverse community of organisms, such as forests that work together to help your body health. This community is made of things called microbes. You have trillions of microbes in your body. These microbes are combination of bacteria, fungi, virus, and protozoa. Every one microbiome is unique. Two people have the same microbial cells. What is the benefit of prokaryotics and how does it work? The next. The main job of probiotics or gut bacteria is to maintain a healthy balance in your body. Think of it as keeping your body in neutral. When you are sick, bad bacteria enters your body and increase in numbers. This knocks your body out of balance. Good bacteria works to fight off the bad bacteria and restores the balance within your body, making you feel better. Good bacteria keep you healthy by supporting your immune function and controlling inflammation. Certain types of good bacteria can also help your body digest food, keep bad bacteria from getting out of control and making you sick. Create vitamins, help supporting the cells that line your gut to prevent bad bacteria that you may have consumed through food or drinks from entering your body, break down and absorb medications. This balancing act is naturally happening in your body all of the time. You don't actually need to take probiotic supplements to make it happen. This bacteria is in our body. Good bacteria is just a natural part of your body. Eating a well-balanced diet rich in fibers every day helps to keep the number of good bacteria at proper level. Types of probiotics. The next slide. The most common three types of probiotics are lactobacillus. This is a common probiotics found in fermented foods such as yogurt. The second common one is Bifidobacterium. This prokaryotic is found in some dairy products and help with the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. The third one is Saccharomyces boulardii. This is a type of yeast found in many prokaryotics. You can find these prokaryotics and more in supplements and select foods. The previous slide, please. Prokaryotics are recommended for fatty liver disease. Why? It comes to type prokaryotics that's the best for treatment NAFLD. The probiotics that have shown to help with NAFLD management include Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium species. In addition, the studies that were analyzed that a participant take a probiotic once or twice a day. What are probiotics? Are life benefits when consumed applied to the body. They can be found in yogurt and other fermented food, dietary supplements, and beauty products. Now, where do beneficially probiotics microbes live in my body? They can be in mouth, gut, vagina, urinary tract, skin, and lungs. The next slide. How do I take a probiotic supplement? Where can I find probiotic and increase its percent in my body? There are several ways you can take a probiotic supplement. They come in variety of forms, including food, drink, capsules, or pills, powders, liquid. Probiotic supplements may combine with prebiotics. Prebiotics are complex carbohydrates that feed in microorganisms in your gut. Basically, prebiotics are the food source for the gut bacteria. They help feed the gut bacteria and keep it healthy. Prebiotics include pectin and resistant starches and inulin. When you have a supplement that combines probiotics and prebiotics, it's called symbiotics. Which food is rich with probiotics? You can absolutely increase beneficial microbes in your body from the food you eat. Certain food have probiotics in them and can benefit the health of your microbiomes. This food can be introduced in your diet at any points of the day. You may even regularly eating them now and not realize that they certain probiotics. You will want to check the food label for live and active calories. A few suggestions for some of the probiotics-rich foods you can add to your diet, and sometimes you try them include breakfast. Breakfast, try yogurt, buttermilk, sourdough bread. For lunch, try cottage cheese, kombucha, and tempeh. For a snack, try fermented pickles, for dinner fermented sauerkraut, and champi miso soup. Is there harms of our solution or prokaryotics bacteria? Generally, it's safe for healthy individuals that are often tried for medical conditions. Researcher is ongoing to determine their usage and effectiveness. It's important to consult with a healthcare provider before starting a prokaryotic supplement, as some cases may not be suitable for certain situations. Prokaryotics are generally considered safe. However, there are some risks linked to the supplements. These risks are increasing if you have a medical condition that weaken your immune system, has recently had surgery, or have other serious medical conditions. A likely but possible risk can include developing an infection, developing a resistance to antibiotics, developing harmful byproducts for the probiotic supplement. Finally, we are Team Sandyuka. We are 5 members: Malak Hassan, Nuruddin, Iman, Ahmed, and Jana. Thank you for your listening to our presentation.
All right, great job, guys. I really loved your presentation. Floor is open for any questions or comments or encouragement that other members may have. So I'll let you guys have a minute or so for that, and then we can move on to our next speaker, who's Vaishnavi. And Vaishnavi, will you be able to present on your own, or do you want me to present for you?
Yeah, let me just check right now.
Okay, no worries. But amazing job. Okay, I'll give you guys about a minute if you have any questions. And if you think of any questions once the other presenter starts, definitely you can type them in the chat, and I'm sure they'd love to respond in the chat as well. But Vaishnavi, you're good to present.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will be talking about resident burnout prevention today and how we can reduce that through app-based intervention. So this is just what I'm going to be talking about today. Our first section is what is residency and how does burnout affect it negatively. And then I'll be going over specialties that tend to have the most burnout. And then in our third and fourth sections, I'll be covering my solution and future plans. And in the last section, I will discuss challenges and limitations and how I plan on overcoming that. So this is just my what. So what is residency? Medical residency tends to be one of the hardest phases of becoming a doctor. It's typically the training period after medical schools where doctors can specialize in one specific area, such as pediatrics, surgery, neurology, and many more. During this time, residents tend to face intense work schedules, which include working night shifts and long hours, high expectations, and demanding responsibilities. And what is burnout? So described by psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, it is a condition of physical and mental exhaustion pertaining to caregiving activities, and it arises from chronic exposure to interpersonal stressors at work. It tends to have 3 domains: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization and cynicism, and feelings of inefficacy. So to put that in like words that everyone can understand, the exhaustion component represents the basic individual stress dimension of burnout, and it refers to the feelings of being overextended and depleted of one's emotional and physical resources. And the cynicism or depersonalization component represents a motivational interpersonal distancing dimension of burnout. And cynicism refers to losing a, sorry, I just lost my part, losing an emotional or cognitive involvement with work. And the component of reduced efficacy or accomplishment represents the self-evaluation dimension of burnout, and it refers to feelings of incompetence and a lack of achievement and productivity in work. So next is who and why. Okay, so before I get into who it affects the most, I just want to go over how we measure burnout in the healthcare section. So we use the MASLAC burnout inventory, and it's used for healthcare physicians, and it comprises 22 questions across 3 subscales, which is emotional exhaustion containing 9 questions, depersonalization containing 5 questions, and a lack of personal accomplishment containing 8 questions. And these responses are scored on a 6-point Likert scale, ranging from 0, never, to 6, every day. And there are 3 tiers for each subscale: low, moderate, high. And once we reach into the high scale, that's where we tend to see the most burnout. But burnout is defined by the MASLAC recommended criteria of high emotional exhaustion and high depersonalization, or high emotional exhaustion and low personal accomplishment. So who does it affect the most? Nationwide, we see an overall burnout rate of 50% within all specialties of resident physicians, but we see the most in OBGYN, internal med, and neurology with 75%, 63%, and 60% respectively. And these specialties tend to be affected the most as they have long hours and life-threatening emergencies. And why is it those specialties specifically? Residents in these specific fields have higher rates of burnout because of more stress and life-threatening emergencies, like I said. And burnout increases the likelihood of medical error, affects the ability to work efficiently, and causes headaches and fatigue, but it also increases the likelihood of depression and heart disease. So when we look at it, burnout isn't just affecting the resident that it has, like the resident that has burnout, it's just not just affecting them. It tends to affect their patients, their coworkers. So reducing this is a really great thing. So the solution that I've come up with is app-based intervention. So the use of mobile apps will present an opportunity to address resident burnout. And in the app that I've suggested, I want to include stress reduction techniques, which would include breathing cycles, meditation, workout, and good nutrition reminders. And it would also include peer support forums, where it's basically a place where residents can come together and state how they're feeling anonymously, because when you tend to get things off your chest, you tend to feel better, you tend to feel less stressed, and you can just go on with your day. A self and peer assessment module where peers or themselves can evaluate to see if they're okay to work or to see if they need a mental wellness day. And last but not least, a 3 things gratitude journal, which is basically an area or journal where residents can write down things that they feel grateful for that day. Doesn't even have to be daily, just whenever they want or whenever they feel like they need to. So to go about making this app, to go about figuring out what's the best way to do it, my future plans, first, I would go about my data collection. So the first step in that data collection process is to locate a residency program, to conduct a survey to find what factors to include in the app, what residents specifically want. And the second part is to format a survey asking 4 main questions, which is, as a resident, do you feel that you are burnt out? Second question, if you feel this way, do you feel that your program gives you the appropriate tools and support to overcome it? Third question, if given an app that would help prevent burnout, would you use it and would it be helpful? And fourth question, any feedback for this app? After formatting, third step is format an app, including all the sections and present feedback from the survey. Fourth step is to pilot a trial app and monitor burnout levels on the MBI for a course of 6 months. I would administer MBI tests at the beginning, midway point, and end of our 6-month experiment, and as well as at the end of every week to track each resident physician's scores and determine the average % change for the resident class. After this whole 6-month course is done, my fifth step would be to receive feedback on the app and make tweaks if needed. And my last section that we have today is challenges and limitations. So we have 2 challenges and limitations, and obviously these are not just the only ones that are there, but these are probably going to be the most prominent ones. And it is inadequate sample size and lack of interest when responding. So when piloting the app, it is possible that the quantity and validity of the app and its successfulness will not be optimal or reliable due to various factors, but the 2 that I've decided to discuss today are an inadequate sample size. So when I try to do this, I would try to do it with more people and with a higher class size rather than a class size of, I'd say, like 10. I try to go around to 25, 30, and a lack of interest in responding. Obviously, residency is a very hard part of a doctor's journey to becoming a successful doctor. So a lot of residents might just not find the time to go through with this app. But if those challenges and limitations are overcome, I feel that we would be able to do this experiment. So these are just my references that I used, and that is it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. Again, very aesthetic presentation as well. I love the visuals and how detailed you went through each step of the implementation process. But the floor is open to anyone who has any questions. If not, I'll leave the floor open for about a minute, like always, and then we'll move on to, I believe the next team is Team BioAid. But wonderful presentation. And Mohammed, while we're waiting, you can get started and just share your screen.
Okay. Hello. I'm Muhammad Ibrahim Ghorbawi from BioAid team, and we will discuss today about obesity. This is our team members: Muhammad Ghorbawi, it's me, David Medhat, Ahmed Farghali, Ala Ahmed, and Aya Sobhi. First, we will talk about the obesity. Obesity is a global health problem that affects millions of people and poses serious risks for various chronic diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Obesity is defined as having a body mass index, BMI, of 30 or higher, which indicates an excess amount of body fat. BMI is calculated by dividing weight in kilograms by height in meters squared. Obesity can be caused by combinations of genetics, behavioral, metabolic, and environmental factors, such as eating habits, physical activities, activity levels, sleep patterns, stress, and exposure to chemicals or pollutants. Obesity can also be influenced by social determinants can also be influenced by social determinants of health, such as the availability and affordability of health food options. the design and safety of neighborhoods, the access of healthcare service, and the cultural norms and values of different groups. And let's talk about the problem of obesity. And David Medhat will complete after me.
Hello everyone, I am David Medhat from Bio 18. Let's get started for the problem. The problem of obesity is that it affects not only the individual's health, but also the society's well-being, and incoming obesity can reduce the quality of life, lower productivity, increase health, care costs, and increase to environment uh, degeneration, according to the World Health Organization. Obesity is one of the leading causes of preventable deaths worldwide. The solution to obesity is not simple or easy. It requires for a comparative and medical approach that address the root cause and consequences of obesity at different levels, individual and interpersonal, organization and community and policy. Some of the strategies that can help prevent and treat obesity include: 1. Adopting a healthy eating plan that employs a variety of vegetables, fruit, whole grains, lean points, and low-fat dairy products, and also limitless food, and differences with added sugars, solid fats, and sodium. 2. Increasing physical activity and latest 150 minutes per week moderate. Industry aerobic exercise, such as brisk walking or cycling physical activity can help burn calories, improve physical health, strengthen muscle and bones, and reduce stress. 3. Getting adequate sleep and managing stress level. Lack of sleep and chronic stress can affect hormones that regulate, applicate, and monitor blood. They can also impair comparative function and environmental well-being. And 4. Seeking professional help from health. Care provides distance and behavior concerns or obesity. Specialists, they can provide personalized guidance, support, feedback, and monitoring. For weight loss goals and plans, they can also prescribe or surgery for some cases of self-obesity. 5. Creating or modify environments that support healthy behaviors. They can include improving the availability and affordability of healthy food, options providing opportunities and incentives for physical activity, regulating marketing and labeling, food and beverages, and implementing policies that promote healthy qualities and prevent discrimination, and raising awareness and education about obesity, prevention and treatment. Now continue with Muhammad Ibrahim.
Okay, let's continue with our solutions for this problem. We provided a general plan to solve obesity and overweight, and a specific plan for both obesity and overweight, and make it easy to diagnose. We will talk about the mass rashes that express obesity, and a plan to solve it with exercise and diet. Mass ratios that express obesity. BMI is used as a simple measure to classify weight versus height. Overweight and obesity are defined as follows. Overweight BMI between 25 and 30 kilograms per meter square, and obesity BMI more than 30 kilograms per meter square. And the plan to solve obesity, there is no one diet or weight loss plan that suit everyone. Preference, needs, goals, budget, and health status of each person should be taken into account. But all but in general, an effective weight loss plan includes dietary change. Includes number one, dietary change. Choose healthy, nutritious food from all food groups, such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low-fat proteins, and low-fat dairy. Avoid processed and fried foods, sweets, and sugary drinks. A balanced diet contains fewer calories than what you burn per day. Number two, exercise. Regular physical activity for at least 30 minutes most days of the week. You can choose any type of exercise that you like and are able to perform, such as walking, cycling, swimming, or lifting weights. Exercise helps burn calories and improves cardiovascular, bone and muscle health. Number three, behavioral change. Develop new healthy habits and get rid of harmful habits, such as setting measurable and variable goals, tracking process, getting support from groups or counselors, managing stress, overcoming problems, and self-screening. Number four, schedule. To create an organized schedule for your plan, you must first calculate your BMI, weight loss goals, your required calories, and your physical activity level. You can use online tools to help you with this, such as BMI calculator, calo calculator, and physical activity calculator. Based on this information, you can design a plan that suits your needs and economic category, and to help you have created for you a model plan for a month. And this is our general plan to work on it to lose weight in 1 month. So let's start with the first week. This week, you will start with basic dietary changes and light exercise. You will reduce the amount of food you eat and increase the protein of vegetables and fruits in your meals. You will drink water instead of sugary or carbonated drinks. You will do aerobic exercise such as walking or cycling for 50 minutes a day, 3 times a week. You will set the weight loss goals you want to achieve at the end of the month. And you will measure your weight and BMI at the beginning of the week. In the second week, you will continue the dietary changes that you started in the first week, and you will add some improvements to it. You will choose foods with high quality and naturality value, such as whole grains, low-fat proteins, and low-fat dairy. You will reduce the intake of salt, started fats, and trans fats. You will increase the duration of aerobic exercise to 20 minutes a day. 4 times a week, you will add to your routines some muscle strengthening exercises, such as lifting weights or exercise using your own body weight twice a week. You will measure your weight and BMI at the end of the week and compare them with last week's measurements. In the third week, you will try some changes in your diet to increase variety and excitement. You will try some new recipes and contain healthy and delicious foods, such as green salad with beans and cheese, lentil soup with vegetables, or grilled chicken with thyme and lemon. You will maintain the number of calories you need per day, and you will eat 5 small meals instead of 3 large ones. You will increase the duration of aerobic exercise to 25 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Some exercises will add flexibility to the giants to your routine, such as stretching, yoga, or Tai Chi twice a week. You will measure your weight and BMI at the end of the week and compare them with last week's measurements. In the last week, you will achieve the weight loss goals you set at the beginning of the month, or you will get closer to them. You will continue to follow your balanced and varied diet, adding to it some bonuses such as a piece of chocolate or a glass of juice. You will increase the duration of aerobic exercise to 30 minutes a day, 6 times a week. You will increase the intensity of strength and flexibility exercises. Try some challenges such as lifting heavier weights or doing more reps. You will measure your weight and BMI at the end of the week and calculate your achievements. And this is our general plan for a month. Let's talk about the specific plan for overweight. And this plan aims to reduce calories you consume and increase physical activity you practice to achieve a negative difference between what you burn and what you eat calories. This leads to gradual and healthy weight loss. And this plan including the following: dietary change. First, we should choose healthy and nutritious foods from all foods groups, such as vegetables and fruits, whole grains, low-fat proteins, as we said first. And avoid processed and fried foods, sweets, and sugary drinks. Follow a balanced diet that contains fewer calories than what you burn per day. And all of that we talked about in the last part. So let's continue with the exercise we talked about. Let's talk about the behavioral change. Develop new healthy habits and move away from harmful habits, such as setting measurable and verifiable goals, tracking process, getting support from groups and counselors, and managing stress, overcoming and problems, and self-esteem. And let's talk about the obesity plan. It's at first like the overweight and the general plan. So let's talk about the dietary change. First, we should follow a diet low in calories and fat and carbohydrates, high in proteins and fiber. Choose foods and that saturate you for long periods and contain high natural value, such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and other things that we talk about to drink and eat. And you can consult a registered defense to help you develop a diet plan that suits your needs. As a rule, it's recommended to reduce 1,000 calories per day to lose 2 pounds as 0.9 kilograms per week.
Hi, Mohammed. So sorry to interrupt. I do want to be mindful of our time and our other speakers next. So if you could just briefly explain the next few parts of your plan, and we should try to aim to wrap up in about the next few minutes.
Can you say it again, because I don't hear it.
Yeah, sure. I was just saying you can continue on, but if you could just briefly explain the next few parts, as we do have to move on to the next speakers.
We will let the next speaker to talk.
You can continue for the next minute, but we will have to move on soon.
Okay. So let's continue with Ahmed Farghali in the last part.
Okay, so for medications or surgery, in some cases, it may be necessary to use medications or surgery to help lose weight, especially if BMI is more than 40 kilograms per square meter. or if there are serious health complications due to obesity. These options should be these options need careful and constant medical follow-up and have side effects and possible risks. So a doctor should be consulted before making any decision. For medications, there are pills or injections that suppress your appetite, reduce your body's absorption of fat, or increase your body's burning of calories. Some of the authorized drugs are orlistat, phentermine, liraglutide, and semaglutide. These drugs should be used under medical supervision and only if BMI is more than 30 kilograms per meter cubic, per cubic meter. If there are health problems associated with obesity, a diet and sports program should be followed with these drugs to increase their effectiveness. There are surgeries that change the shape or the shape or size of the stomach or intestines to reduce the amount of food that can be ingested or absorbed. Some of the surgeries used to lose weight are gastric banding, gastric bypass, and gastric detachment. Such operations should be used as the last option and only if BMI is more than 40 kilograms per cubic meter, and if there are serious health complications due to obesity. So for the conclusion, David Medhat will continue.
Conclusion. In conclusion, obesity is a major public. Okay, please 1 minute. Obesity is a major public health change that dominates and ground addiction and action. By understanding the complexity and diversity present and manage this condition, we hope that this research will complicate and the achievement of obesity, knowledge and practice, and unlimitedly improve the health and well-being of people with obesity, their communities. And the end of presentation for recommendations. We will put some suggestions to make our research better, but we can't make it now. Make a simple website to help people don't forget exercise or diet. Make an app be more availability for people they don't have internet access all of the day. Make plans all the ages after searching and testing a lot of methods. And thank you for listening to Bio Team 8.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So you guys can stop your screen sharing. The amazing presentation, very thorough. Once again, I'm sorry we had to cut you guys a little short, but just wanted to be mindful of our other speakers. The floor will be open for the next minute or so if you guys have any questions for Team BioAid. But if not, we can move on to our next speaker. Isha, do you want to share your screen or do you want me to share it for you?
I can share my screen.
Okay, sure. But very well done, Team BioAid.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Hi, my name is Isha, and this is my Research Symposium presentation. So, wait. When I turn, it's not. Oh, it's annoying. Okay, wait 1 second. I guess I'm just gonna have to do it on this.
We can see your screen.
Yeah. I'm gonna restart. Hi, my name's Isha, and this is my Research Symposium presentation. So first, what I wanted to cover in this presentation was first the problem and its statistics as to why I chose this problem specifically, and then I wanted to show off the background research that I've done and how people have combated this issue right now in the present day, and then I wanted to show how my solution would be an improvement of that, and then the estimated cost to implement this infrastructure into hospitals. And then the ethical dilemmas, specifically because we did have a med debate on AI in healthcare. And then I wanted to review the pros and cons of the solution and my vision as to what I want the solution to be. But first, before we get started, I did want to give a little background on the different heart conditions that the heart disorders my CNN can define. And a CNN is basically a convolutional neural network, and it's a deep learning model that utilizes multiple layers, and that's why it's called convolutional. So the first condition is a cardiomegaly, and it's an enlarged heart. It's the word is what it means. It can be caused by damage, high blood pressure, congenital defects, and it can result in arrhythmias or heart failure. Second one's pericardial effusion. It's when excess fluid accumulates between the pericardium and the heart, and it can be caused by inflammation, injury, cancer, or kidney failure, and it can interfere with the heart's ability to pump blood. Third one is infiltrative cardiomyopathies, and it's just a group of diseases that cause abnormal substances to build up inside the heart muscle and make it really thick. They also affect electrical signals and blood flow in the heart and cause multiple symptoms. And then the fourth one is cardiac tumors, and this is the one that's most widespread within mass media, and because it can either be benign or cancerous, and benign meaning non-cancerous. And they usually originate from either the heart tissue or spread from other parts of the body. They either affect the valves, chambers, or vessels and cause problems like obstruction and embolism, or even rupture and cause an infection. So into the problem statistics. So first, the problem. Cardiovascular disease is a leading cause of death worldwide. In 2019, 2 million people died out just from cardiovascular disease, and out of the 17 million premature deaths under the age of 70 due to non-communicable diseases in 2019, 38% were caused by CVDs. And considering the amount of deaths that this disease causes, there must be a cheaper, easier, more reliable way to diagnose people. And the problem is that the diagnosis of CVD typically involves resource-intensive procedures like angiograms, desk tests, and echocardiograms that utilize specialized equipment and need substantial time and financial resources. And disparities in places that don't really have access to these materials just exacerbate the issue and make our patient outcomes much worse, while also putting financial burdens on healthcare systems and patients. And some statistics. Their heart disease costs the U.S. $239.9 billion in services, medicines, and lost productivity in a year, according to the CDC. 11.2% of American adults have some sort of heart disease, and as you grow older, your risk for heart disease does increase significantly. And heart diseases are difficult to diagnose, as I mentioned before in the previous slide, because of how hard it is to diagnose with the multiple tests to diagnose it. And these are present solutions. Diagnoses. So currently diagnoses are based on the results of a physical exam and tests that physicians conduct. And this is a reactive model instead of a proactive. And the problem is that reactive models take a lot of time, as they're basically waiting for the disease to come instead of trying to prevent it beforehand. And what I did was create an ML model, or machine learning model, that utilizes algorithms to and ensemble techniques to analyze complex interactions within their risk factors. Because if we had automation, it would reduce the risk of human error, because data and interpretation can be subjective, although we hate to admit it. And the ML model would quickly process and analyze these large data sets, making it suited for handling patient volumes during maybe rush hour. So we could get through patients faster while also making sure that accuracy remains the same. Solution. So after a lot of lines of code, basically what this code does is taking the demographic of the patient, taking into risk factors like age if they're over 60. And this is the most basic version of what I want to make. And it uses the results from a troponin test. And troponin is basically a protein that appears only in the blood when a heart muscle is damaged, and they leak out of the cells into the bloodstream. And if you have increased troponin levels, it is a very heavy indicator of heart disease. And in the model that I want to send out, I envision that patients and physicians can upload scans, whether it's a CT or an MRI, and or their risk factors. And I really want this model to be proactive, and that's why I place a heavy emphasis on the risk factor side, because I want to identify potential cases of heart disease even before they happen. These are like the incidence of cases at due because of age, and you can see that around 60 there's a lot more cases than there were if for like a younger patient. More graphs. These graphs basically show the relationship between that the machine learning model forms between the heart disease and positive data. As you can see here, it's trying to make a correlation between the data. And in unsupervised learning models, this can be especially useful because in that case, the model is training without any help from humans, and it is rewarded for closer steps to the answer. Just graphs. More graphs. Something I like to highlight is the fact that the accuracy for random forest is the exact same as a decision tree. So when I coded it, like most people who tinker with ML, I tested out different models or different ways to group the data together to see if one type of model would be better for higher accuracy for specific data. And if multiple models are giving me the same accuracy, then I'm probably getting the highest accuracy I could assume for. And this picture at the top is of some common X-ray findings. It's specifically from the paper that I took the images for the CNN model from. So all of this so far was for the risk factor side. And these two graphs along with this image are for the CNN side. And the CNN is basically just a convolutional neural network, not to be confused with a recurring neural network. As the name suggests, it's a deep learning model that uses layers, and it's really good for analyzing pictures. As I mentioned before, I do want my model to deal with both risk factors and images. The images is more of a reactive model to deal with the dominant ideologies, and that's really it. The CNN also has a really similar accuracy, so really high, for as well as the risk factor side. So I'd love to combine them for the final product. As you can see, the graphs in the blue and orange. This is an AUC graph, which an AUC is an area under a curve, and a low AUC, which is what the area of the curve over here shows, basically means that there's very high distinguishment between classes for the CNN. And yeah, also this image includes lung diseases as well, and I only chose cardiomegaly, pericardial effusion, and infiltrative cardiomyopathies, and cardiac tumors. So my solution is an ML machine learning model that utilizes both the patient's history, including results from troponin, and medical imaging if necessary. My approach has been done before in some aspects, but not in others. For example, there are existing AI models that can detect heart disease based on risk factors or medical images, but not both. My model has an accuracy rate of above 97%, and the data I use to train it is very diverse, so it is a reliable determinant of heart disease. Additionally, by utilizing LIME, which is local interpretable model agnostic explanations, the model can be transparent and maybe even help clinicians learn as to why the AI decided to mark it up as either positive or negative. And if the reasoning is wrong, then the clinician can step in and make sure that the person isn't put through unnecessary treatment. Next, we're going into estimated cost. So the cost of this model is estimated to be very low as $0. And this is because most hospitals, at least in first world countries, already have the required infrastructure, and it's only a matter of getting the model to them. However, in rural areas where we need this model the most, there could be costs incurred if they do not already have the necessary materials. Ethical dilemmas. So, benefits of the solution when used on patients are the cost of treatment is relatively cheap. and in turn will allow hospitals to treat more patients at a time, which will lead to better patient outcomes. But there are some drawbacks, including the fact that there can be concerns about an over-reliance on technology. And that especially is important because the physician-patient bond is especially important. So relying on technology and making physicians we have to make sure that the physician uses this as a supplement to their clinical findings to make sure that people can have that emotional support that they need from their physician, as well as their reassurance that this is all going to be okay. But also keep in mind that this solution is financially accessible to many people. That is amazing, and I will always try to continue to make this even more accessible so people can experience this treatment without having to worry about finances. Next are pros and cons. So pros, AI would improve the diagnosis speed, and it would be able to analyze complex data sets, detect anomalies and patterns, and provide insights and recommendations into the efficiency, the quality, and the accessibility of these healthcare services. And the automation especially would be amazing because with automation, we can reduce error. AI would also be able to empower patients and caregivers by being able to provide personalized, interactive, and convenient tools for their communication. And especially if you look at the decline of the physical exam, as we were able to provide tests to help physicians clarify that what they thought was the diagnosis was correct, it just gave physicians more peace of mind, and it also made patients more receptive to what their physician said. But there are some cons, obviously. People could have a hard time adapting to AI technology. So we have to especially be compliant with HIPAA and make sure that physicians know that this data has to be secure. And since the model can be run offline, that is especially important to make sure that nothing gets sent through or sent to anywhere else. But as you do need internet to download the model at the beginning, it can be hard implementing the solution in rural areas. Next is my vision. I want to advance medical technology to the point that we can improve health of people who suffer or are at risk of heart disease by making sure that they can receive the treatment that they need before it worsens to something that is a huge demon. And I want to increase the amount of early heart disease diagnoses as much as possible, because if we can have early detection, that's just the key to better patient outcomes. And I would be able to check if this is statistically significant, if we can increase the rates of diagnosis, while also making sure that there is a better patient-physician experience. Thank you. These are my sources.
Thank you so much, Isha. I love all the prototypes you made and how you actually went to code it, and you made kind of a prototype of all the different models. Does anyone have any questions for Isha? So someone's asked me in the chat, where did you get your data for your data set?
I just answer them like by speaking. I don't want to type.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so for the first question, my model does not overfit, and I know that because the train and test data accuracies are really close together. And if it doesn't overfit, I did of course implement a stopping. So if during an epoch, if it lowers its accuracy, then I will stop it so that it is at the highest accuracy possible. So it should be fine as for overfitting and exploding gradient class imbalance. I do have a very diverse data set, so I don't, that they should not be a problem. For getting data for my data set, the first data set was from Kaggle. Kaggle is amazing for the risk factors and troponin. And then for the images, there's a paper about using it was just establishing how they had a new data set, and they had a download, so I just downloaded it from there.
Okay, another question you have is what were your measures for problems with convoluted neural networks like overlifting, exploding, gradient, and
Yeah, I answered that.
Okay, and then moving on, from my understanding, CNNs use local receptive fields specializing in short-range dependency, but long-term dependencies are essential in medical data. How will you circumvent this?
Don't really understand what you mean. Could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, maybe you could elaborate it in the chat data. And then you also have another question below. Says medical data sets often suffer from class. Sorry?
Oh no, I was just gonna answer it.
Okay, go for it.
For class imbalance and noise, I would have to pre-process the data to make sure that the CNN isn't picking up on something different. But that shouldn't be a big problem considering hospitals already have this. Most of hospitals have the necessary infrastructure for that. RNNs don't really deal with images, so I thought a CNN would be the best. Oh, okay. I thought CNNs would be a better suited fit because most image processing models use a CNN as their backbone. They can.
All right, if there are no more questions in the chat, round of applause to you, Isha. We can move on to our next speaker, who's Daria. Daria, would you like to present yourself? Do you want me to present for you?
Can you present?
Sure. Just give me a second.
Managing the obesity epidemic. We can go to the next slide. What is obesity? Obesity is recognized as excessive body fat that will potentially lead to health risks. Obesity has been declared an epidemic by the World Health Organization in 1997. Over 1 billion people have obesity. To put into perspective, these are the obesity statistics according to the World Health Organization in the corner below. You can go to the next slide. These are the global statistics measuring like the obesity statistics amongst people over the age of 18 by country. As you can see in most westernized civilizations, there's a high obesity rate along with parts of North Africa and the little part of South Africa. And then there's a smaller obesity rate in countries like India and Japan and Korea. You can go to the next slide. What are the causes of obesity? Obesity can come from lack of proper nutrition, one's environment, genetics, and lifestyle. It's a privilege to be able to access a gym. Some people may live in rural areas where they don't have a gym near them. Some people may not be able to have the finances to finance a gym membership. Some people may not have the right amount of finances to finance a healthy food lifestyle either. But in this case, I will be focusing primarily on the nutritional aspect. You can go on the next slide. Why is nutrition a contributing factor towards obesity? In modern times, since the late 1900s, fast food has become a staple to society. Fast food is in the junk food category, which means that junk food contains preservatives such as salt, sugar, and fat. When this is consumed, your brain gets a positive sensation from the food. This can also cause a binge eating disorder, by the way. But after this occurs, junk food cravings are likely to occur. This is one of the beginning stages of junk food addiction. The body then stores excessive amounts of fat, which would then get stored in the body. Why this method? My approach is inspired by the Let's Move campaign led by Michelle Obama. She visited schools across the country and spread awareness on nutritional and physical health among the youth. However, I think that there's more that can be done outside of like telling children that they need to exercise. I think she had a good approach, but I think there's more that can be done. You can go to the next. How to reduce the epidemic. These are my solutions to the problem, but we can increase the prices of junk food and lower the prices of organic foods. We can require fast food companies / junk food companies to list the potential health risks of consuming their products. We can make advertisements less child-friendly. We can invest in marketing healthy foods and promote appealing recipes to do with the healthy foods. For example, like tofu, a lot of people are turned off by tofu. Some people are because they don't know what to do with it. They don't know the many things that you can do with that specific ingredient. And I was also, for the marketing aspect, I was thinking of the cigarette situation. A lot of cigarettes now, well, cigarettes used to be a big problem, and it still is now, but it has dropped significantly. But the cigarettes, they improved their problem by listing the health risks on the products, and I was thinking the same for the foods. Like the food can have like a little warning label saying this ingredient can cause cancer or this ingredient can cause this. And I also noticed in advertisements on children's TV channels, there's characters that appeal to children. There's a lot of vibrant colors that appeal to children. Like, for example, the McDonald's commercials, they have Ronald McDonald in it, and children may find that appealing. You can go to the next slide. This is how I will implement this project into society. First, I will partner with the local food industry in select locations like certain stores with high obesity rates and observe the experiment. I will keep note of data regarding the sales of junk foods versus the sales of healthy foods before and after the experiment in order to keep track of my growth. Next. I do not have my pros and cons listed, because I was going to say it out loud, but the cons is that it may slow down business for the companies that sell junk food or fast food. However, the pro is that they can overcome that con by seeing this as a business opportunity to create healthier options. For example, if they see that their business is slowing down because of their food options and the healthier options are having more sales, they could take advantage of that by creating healthy food options and so that they can profit off of it as well. But in conclusion, managing the business aspect of food sales through marketing and prices can help manage the obesity epidemic. The next slide is my sources, and thank you for your time.
The floor is open for any questions that you guys may have. And in the meantime, if you want to set up to screen share, go ahead. Okay, Dara, you have a question in the chat. So Don says, really informative presentation. I'd like to hear your opinion on the body positivity movement, if you have. Do you want to elaborate on that, Daria?
Yes, I can. I think I understand the concept. Like, I think it's great that people can promoting like self-acceptance. However, I do think there is a boundary between sometimes I think there's a boundary between self-acceptance and taking care of your health if your health is at risk. And also I do also think sometimes like genetics can play a factor into someone's weight or their body build. I don't think sometimes it depends on the person, but however, if their weight is putting their health at risk, I do think there should be changes made into a person's lifestyles, the lifestyle choices and the exercise choices. However, I also think it's great that people are accepting themselves, but I do think that there needs to be a boundary.
All right, great job. So we can move on to Dawn now. You can get started.
Hi guys, my name is Don, and I just really like to share my story before we get started with our pre-recorded video. So then when I was 7 years old, my grandma actually was diagnosed with cobalt poisoning as a result of her metal hip replacement. And over the years, she's been developing retrograde anemia. And so basically everything before I was 7 years old, she's essentially forgotten all the memories we've made, everything. So when I presented this idea to my group, it was really nice to see that they asked no further questions. They just got started with the research. It was just really beautiful to see them get into that mood. And so, yeah, enjoy your presentation. I think if that will be screen sharing it. Yeah.
Hello, can you guys see?
Yes, we can.
All right, great, thanks.
But I'm just going to pause right there. Is there audio to video?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not able to hear the audio.
Okay.
No.
Let's see. Oh, sorry, I just forgot to press share sound.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, does it work now?
I'm not able to hear.
The music is kind of faint in the background.
Okay, do you want to skip to sometime in the middle, maybe?
Could you hear that?
Oh, yeah, we can hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
One, two, three, up. Oh my God.
Five years later.
So Merrick, how have you been feeling lately?
I've been
I haven't had much strength lately, and I'm facing some back problems recently.
Like vision-wise, hearing-wise, how's that?
I used to have perfect vision, but it's been getting worse recently.
Yeah, anything else major that you've noticed, or?
Sometimes I forget things very easily.
Yeah, so the symptoms will be caused by a variety of conditions. We're just going to run a blood test, knowing your history of hip replacement. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Merrick is one of the more than 1 million recipients of hip replacements every single year. And even though the procedure has transformed the lives of countless individuals, restoring mobility and alleviating pain, it has become evident that the path towards progress is not without its hurdles. The problem? Chromium cobalt poisoning. Over prolonged wear and tear, Merrick's hip replacement would degrade. But how does this poisoning occur? It's a phenomenon caused by the friction of movement that naturally transpires within the artificial hip joint. As the cobalt chromium components rub against each other, tiny particles break free and enter the surrounding tissues, ultimately finding their way into the bloodstream. The symptoms of cobalt poisoning are diverse, ranging from the subtle to the severe. Merrick, like many others, might experience fatigue, weakness, and unexplained hip pain. As the poisoning progresses, neurological symptoms could surface, including confusion, headaches, and even vision and hearing impairments. This is what makes cobalt poisoning so dangerous. Its symptoms are often overlooked by other conditions.
Inside it contains a mini colorimeter that takes a sample from your interstitial fluid right below your skin. It then induces it with carboxyl functionalized cadmium sulfide quantum dots and analyzes the concentration of cobalt with the colorimeter inside the mechanism. Then it sends the colorimetry data to a server which indexes it and displays it in the app as a measure of how many cobalt parts there are in a billion. In other words, the cobalt ppb. Alongside this, the app provides if the level is too high and tracks the level on a day-to-day basis. The main benefit of this mechanism is that it uses colorimetry to provide a very exact measurement. The quantum dot colorimetry procedure is a newly researched method which has been utilized for programs to test if the water in the environment has high concentrations of cobalt. It's been proven to work to maximum efficiency for the detection of cobalt to an accuracy of 0.23 micrograms per milliliter. In our case, it is set to detect to this accuracy in interstitial fluid.
The proposed innovation aims to develop a non-invasive method for detecting cobalt levels in the body without the need for a sharp needle or wasting travel time to get to a clinical setting. The process can be conveniently conducted in various environments, such as work, school, or home. The collected data will be transmitted to a mobile app for analysis and documentation, aiding in accurate medical history during follow-up appointments. The project also includes an automated alert system to promptly notify users about the presence of foreign metallic ions in the bloodstream, enabling early intervention treatment. Safety measures draw from established technologies like glucose monitors and calorimeters, ensuring a reliable and secure product design.
The heavy metal detection patch offers a painless and non-invasive test for cobalt and heavy metal levels, promoting widespread accessibility and convenience to address foreign metal-related illnesses. While it focuses on diagnosis, the patch doesn't cover prevention and treatment aspects due to our scope. The technology provides concentration data, leaving treatment decisions to experienced practitioners. The patch's foundation in non-invasive tests like blood sugar monitors enhances safety, guided by a long history of research in patch-like treatments.
As with a large majority of modern technology, there needs to be a power source. Over the span of a lifetime, batteries and other power-generating parts will need to be replaced. One solution we could offer would be to have the batteries be rechargeable, and design a compact, portable charging kit for patients to use in any setting they need. We will keep up with the latest technology to find ways to increase the longevity of this design, implementing any updates as necessary.
In the status quo, where hip replacement recipients are in a constant bend over their own safety, we introduce not only a convenient, but accessible way for our patients to keep track of their health. Now, they don't have to choose between long hours in the clinic or the risk of cobalt poisoning. They have a way to monitor their health from the convenience of their own phone. Equipped with sustainable and well-researched technology and a company software, our cobalt patch removes the worry that so many hip replacement patients face.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Also, Dawn, thank you so much for sharing your story. And what a production! I mean, the acting, the costumes, the props, the editing that went into all this. Very good job, guys. I'm really impressed. I believe you have a question in the chat, so if one of you want to answer it. Someone says, how can you guarantee the safety of your product being implemented into someone's body? Have you considered allergic reactions, the body rejecting the project? Really great video. How long did it take to edit? I agree.
Hi, I can answer the question. So essentially, for a metal hip replacement, the outside shell is made of glucose that monitors monitors that are made of recycled plastic. This reduces the risk for allergies and makes it accessible to everyone. And the tiny needle, which takes a sample from your interstitial fluid, is made without nickel. As recent research has shown, a spike in dermatitis due to 8% of nickel in certain needles. And also for the editing question, it took about 15 hours to edit, so it took a really long time.
Holy smokes. We can definitely tell you put in the effort. Okay, if there are no more questions, we can move on to our next speaker. Sophia, do you want to present your screen yourself, or do you want me to do it for you?
I'll present it myself.
Okay, sure.
Sorry, so I'm sorry, can you see my screen?
We can see your screen.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Sophia Olajide, and I want to present something about oceanic carbon dioxide sequestration using algae biofilm and specialized texture polymers. So the problem in focus. The problem in focus is climate change and its accumulation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which leads to global warming. And it's associated environmental and economic impacts. The consequences of climate change are widespread and have impact on ecosystem, weather patterns, sea levels, diversity, and biodiversity, and a lot of aspects. The continuation of the release of CO2 gas and other greenhouse gases has disrupted our world in an unimaginable way. The most recent disruption we all heard of, wildfire in Canada, the wildfire in Hawaii Island, and it has heavily impacted air quality in neighbor areas. The proposed solution involves using algae biofilm on special textured polymer surfaces to isolate carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and surrounding water in order to mitigate climate change and reduce greenhouse gases and concentration. This approach aims to address the urgent need to find effective and sustainable methods for capturing and storing carbon dioxide to combat the ongoing effects of climate change. And why do you have to use this problem? There have been a lot of carbon capture and storage methods. The four carbon capture and storage CSS methods, once as promising technology to mitigate this worst scenario, are considered economically cumbersome, and their long-term environmental implications are still unclear. So we want to shift to alternative biological capture of CO2 using microalgae. And so using microalgae, and furthermore, through microalgae, CO2 can be captured and recycled into biomass, which in turn could be utilized for a carbon source to produce lipid for the production of bioenergy and other value-added products. So in short, this project is combining two methods to combat global change. It's actually as a way to isolate carbon dioxide from the environment, and also a way to provide sustainable renewable energy, which it also reduce carbon footprints. In the future, like the products expected produced from algae biofilm are expected to sustainably replace petroleum-driven transport fuel without affecting the food supply chain or crop directly or indirectly. So the solution. Step one, We have the biofilm cultivation. We have large-scale biofilm and floating structure we deploy in strategic locations across the world ocean. This structure will support the growth of algae biofilms, which are a community of microorganisms, including algae, bacteria, and fungi. This structure will be designed with material that promote biofilm additional growth. In this space, in my projects, I work with specialized textured polymers. The design of the protein structure serves as a critical factor in facilitating optimal biofilm growth and ensuring the stability in water. And specialized juice and the surface should be able to promote, they're able to promote adhesion of microorganisms, and the stability is able to withstand natural disaster, ocean current, and wave. The shape will vary on the location of the ocean to avoid drifting and also to not to alter the marine ecosystem. And the structure will position in a way that maximizes sunlight to efficiently promote photosynthesis. The second step too is the carbon dioxide observation. Microalgae, they are, as I said, they are microorganisms, they are microscopic photosynthetic organisms that play a crucial role in carbon dioxide saturation and biofilm. As we know, terrestrial plants also capture carbon dioxide. But why don't we want to use terrestrial plants? One of the very reasons why they want to use terrestrial plants is terrestrial plants take a long time to grow and capture carbon dioxide. Also, they compete with food crops for arable land, which have effects on the land use and agricultural sector. So we want to a solution that is not going to have a huge effect on the agricultural sector. And they convert in the carbon dioxide into microorganisms absorb carbon dioxide from some various environments. I use as a shortest for photosynthesis. Through these processes, carbon dioxide is converted into organic compound, primarily lipid, protein, and carbohydrates, which make up the biomass of the microalgae. The ability of microalgae to sequester carbon dioxide is not only dependent on their high photosynthetic activity, but also on their efficient nutrient utilization, which made them a promising tool for carbon dioxide mitigation. So the solution 3, that's the algal biofilm utilization. After the algal biofilm have sequestered carbon dioxide from the surrounding environments. When they reach maturity, they can be affected and processed. The biomass obtained can be utilized in several ways. One of the ways that's very, very important is bioenergy. As we know, a lot of people are moving to bioenergy, with some government even imposing tax on industries that release greenhouse gases and that add to the carbon footprint. So bioenergy is a very useful product from this process. The algae biomass can be converted to renewable energy like biodiesel, bioethanol through various processes like fermentation and pyrolysis. And the biofuel can serve as low carbon alternative to fossil fuel using greenhouse gas emission. Also, they act as carbon storage. The algae biomass can be processed and stored in controlled environments such as underground geological formation or carbon capture and structured storage facilities. This method will permanently sequester the carbon dioxide, preventing release into the atmosphere. Also, I want to talk about this. This is also one of the reasons why we don't use terrestrial plants, because in the long run, terrestrial plants will later release the captured carbon. So with this process, we are permanently sequestering the captured carbon from the environment. So the benefits. The first benefit is carbon sequestration. Algae biofilm has the potential to sequester a substantial amount of CO2. In a recent research, it was discovered that algae biofilm can sequester about 100 GT amount of CO2 emission annually. This is a huge step. This is a huge step toward preventing the climate change, the global warming level from reaching 1.05 degrees. And also it supports ocean ecosystem supports. The deployment of algae biofilm would help enhance marine ecodiversity by providing additional habitat and food source of various marine organisms. We all know fishes and different phytoplankton that feed on microalgae. With this project, we are supporting the ocean ecosystem and renewable energy. The conversion of algae biomass into biofilm offer a sustainable energy sources, reducing reliance on fossil fuel and mitigating additional CO2 emission. With this project, we want to reduce further release of CO2 and also help capture the existing CO2 in the atmosphere. The scalability. The vastness of the world ocean provide more ample space for the large-scale implementation of this solution and allowing for sufficient carbon sequestration potential. It has a good advantage over different carbon capture and sequestration measures because it is very cost effective. It is easy to implement because we have the resources for it. The ocean, the vast ocean in the universe is there and is enough to be able to do this project on a wide scale. And then I want to talk about some regulation measures, mechanism, and risks. Then I want to talk about ocean acidification. Due to, I'm sorry, due to some research, ocean acidification can occur as a result of bioalgae offing, but we will reduce ocean acidification by pushing some mechanism that will regulate the pH level of the specialized polymer surface. Since the specialized polymer surface, it is structured in a way that it will regulate the structure and the pH level of the environment by itself. It releases the elements at interval, and that's when we are going to combat ocean acidification. Also, harmful algal bloom. Since algae can bloom to become harmful, because I have a concrete example like from the Baltic Sea, where change in nutrient availability and increased fertility development of alpha algae. This algal bloom can produce toxins that harm marine life and disturb local system. But where we are going to mitigate these risks is by continuous monitoring of algae cultivation sites to detect early signs of HA bloom, harmful algae bloom, and nutrient imbalance, allowing for timely intervention. For instance, we are going to monitor the phytoplankton biomass and community structure. Then we have the strategic placements. This strategic placement, low profile design, spacing and configuration, temporary location, and real-time monitoring. They are what we put in place to stop harmful algae bloom, to stop shading, and to not affect the natural shipping routes. So strategic placements. The floating structure will strategically position in area that are not heavily traversed by ship. This area could be determined by marine traffic data and shipping route analysis. Avoiding this shipping lane and focusing on region with lower maritime activity will reduce the potential for conflict between the structure and shipping operation. Then the low profile design. The floating structure could be designed with a low profile and minimizing their vertical extent above the waterline. This design approach would help reduce the shading effects on the water surface and mitigate any potential visual obstruction for navigational purposes. Then spacing and configuration. Adequate spacing between individual structures will be crucial to ensure that they do not collectively create barrier or obstacle for ship. The configuration of the structure will be planned to allow sufficient gap for vessels to navigate safely to the area. Temporary location. In case where shipping routes needs to be adjusted or maintained, the floating structure will be temporarily located or adjusted to accommodate maritime activity. The flexibility will help strike a balance between carbon sequestration goal and practical shipping operation. Real-time monitoring. Incorporating real-time monitoring system using machine learning would help assess the impact of the floating structure on maritime traffic and shading. And through machine learning, we are going to be able to detect adverse effects and adjustment is being promptly to ensure minimal destruction. Incorporating this material and control consideration will be essential in developing a successful algae buffering conservation strategy that maximizes carbon sequestration while minimizing potential negative effects on shipping routes and environmental aesthetic. It also helps to provide a more reliable source of renewable energy to the world, and thereby reducing climate change and CO2 emission, and also stabilizing the temperature of the universe. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much. Sophia, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Perfect. Okay, you can stop sharing your screen. Let's see, do you have any questions in the chat? Wonderful, wonderful presentation, by the way. I'll give it a minute or so. And in the meantime, I will share screen for the next and actually the last presentation of today. Amazing work. All right, can everyone see my screen? And Meta, you can start whenever you're ready.
Can I start now?
Go ahead.
So greeting all audiences. My name is Medai from Cambodia, and I will be presenting you the plant-based vaccine. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is my table of content. First, I will be presenting you the procedure of plant-based vaccine. Second is the effectiveness of plant-based vaccine, and third is I will be comparing the plant-based vaccine to the normal vaccine, and last but not least is the benefit of it. But so I would like to state clearly that for the effectiveness and comparison, I will be use the clear data, which is the COVID-19 vaccines. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the introduction. So for the past outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic causes the 535 million confirmed cases, 6 million deaths, and 4 billion vaccinated. However, due to the challenging such as low country were unable to afford the expensive COVID-19 vaccine, and the new variant of COVID-19 virus keep developing, so it's very difficult to control the emergency situation that time. Next slide, please. So which is why I come up with the plant-based vaccine, which is will be helpful for the future pandemic. So what is plant-based vaccine? So plant-based vaccine are a kind of recombined vaccine that introduce antigen against particular pathogen into the selected plants. Yes, next slide, please. So let's take a look at procedure, the step of making plant-based vaccine. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the first step of producing plant-based vaccine is to grow a plant and Enterobacterium. And the plant we're using here is called Nicotiana bentoniosis, and it's related to the tropical plant, and they have to be grown for 6 weeks, where the Enterobacterium we're using here contain genetic consequence of virus. And the next step is infiltrate plants. It is when we insert the Enterobacterium to the plant, causing the plant to absorb the Enterobacterium. And with their genetic consequence inside the plant, it can make the VLP, which are virus-like particles. They are the same structure as virus, but they cannot spread or infect the plants. Well, next is interaction. But the interaction is the VLP interact from the plant, and then it will be purified to get rid of the unwanted product. Then it's feedable and ready for the purchase of products. Next slide, please. So second is the effectiveness. I will state the COVID-19 vaccine. But yes, next slide, please. So to ensure the quality and safety of vaccine, the plant-based also need to put in 3 clinical trials, the same as normal vaccines. So according to my study, the plant-based COVID-19 vaccine has successfully under clinical trial and determined to be effective and safety. Next slide, please. So this is the effective of plant-based COVID-19 vaccine. It can be used from the age group of 18 to 64, and the effective of it is ranked from 69.5% rank to 78.8% against the spectrum of variants. Just next slide, please. And third is I will be comparing the normal vaccine and plant-based vaccines. Yes, next slide, please. So the time needed to produce the plant-based vaccine it just only need from 6 to 8 weeks. Well, for normal vaccine, it's need from 3 to 6 months. So come to conclusion, plant-based vaccine has more potentially to fulfill emergency situation than normal vaccine. And the cost of producing the plant-based vaccine is cheaper because of its raw materials such as water, salt, and light is largely accessible sources. And moreover, it is easy for the transportation and storage because it does not need to be stored in a high temperature as unlike the normal vaccines. Just next slide, please. The effect of normal vaccine is ranging up from 90% while plant-based also effective with the 78%. So I will be discussing for the benefits of plant-based vaccines. Yes, next slide, please. So with the low price, so since 50% of vaccine is going to a group of wealthy countries like US, while 30 countries like low-income countries, mostly from Africa, had the less rank of 10% vaccinated, while plant-based vaccine have potential to support this country. The plant-based vaccine is safe because a non-particle VRP that mimic the spike virus cannot cause human a disease. Well, the immune system of the body that respond to it in the same way it would as it was an actual virus. While it is easy to handle because it can be stored at 2 Celsius to 8 Celsius. Yes, next slide, please. It can be produced in a higher scale because of the chip with the material that is easily to access, and the cheap and the fast production because of its short duration of time to produce. So we can increase with a light production of vaccine. Well, if we want the use of animal cells, so due to the moral issues such as the churches and vegetarians, so plant-based product does not use the animal cell, so it can be appropriate for everyone to use. So come to conclusion, this study proved that we can eliminate animals from vaccine, making progress by processing them with plant-based vaccine that are easily produced, cheap and safe compared to normal vaccine. In addition, this product has the potential to fulfill emergency demand, especially in the country mostly of vaccine, and this study will be proved that to be helpful for the future pandemic. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Kayla. I love how organized the presentation. Great visuals again, lovely. So if we have any questions, please type them in the chat. If not, that concludes our 2023 Medical Marvels Challenge. I'm just going to put a document in the chat. So this was the speaking list, and in the list, I've highlighted the speakers that came today. So feel free to add any comments, any questions even that you had to any of the speakers, and yeah, they can reply to them as well. And just be nice, look at all the encouragement, the words of encouragement that you guys have for everyone. So in terms of next steps, make sure you guys keep your eyes peeled for Slack, just because we'll be sending updates regarding awards. So speaking awards will be determined by the end of today, but the awards for our other categories will be released sometime later. So make sure you guys are checking Slack frequently. But other than that, I just want to say thank you to everyone, for all of our speakers and audience members who so patiently stayed. And I know we've been here for almost 3 hours, which is crazy. But I just want to say thank you to everyone for all your hard work, your creativity, your teamwork. We're so impressed with what you guys have created. And yeah, you guys